Here are 3 6-sided dice. I want you to put a number on each face of each die. You can even repeat the same number multiple times on each die if you want, but the goal is to make it so that the first die beats the second one more than half of the time, and the second one beats the third one more than half of the time. This is so fucking easy. Just put all 3s on dice A, all 2s on dice B, and all 1s on dice C. But what if I asked you to also make it so that dice C beats dice A more than half of the time? I promise you there's an actual solution to this, but while you think about it, I should tell you this is some kind of paradox. A reasoning that has an unintuitive result. But there's also an alternative definition of paradox, a reasoning that leads to a contradiction. Look at this silly example first. The sentence on the B side of this card is true. The sentence on the A side of this card is false. But that would mean that then the sentence on the B side is not true, which would mean that the sentence on the A side is not false. So it's true that the sentence on the B side is true, and so on in an infinite never-ending loop. But some paradoxes are about deeper topics, like the existence of a god. A philosopher by the name of Epicurus formulated the following thought: evil exists, and that's a fact. Now, can God stop evil? If no, then he is not omnipotent, all-powerful. If he can, does he know about all evil? If not, he is not omniscient. Otherwise, would he want to prevent it? If he didn't, then he wouldn't be good or loving. But if he did, why isn't he doing it? One of the possible answers to this is because it's necessary for the universe's existence, to which you could ask, could he have created a universe in which evil wasn't needed? If the answer is no, you go back to he is not omnipotent, and so on and so forth. Look at the full map. It always comes down to one of 3 things. He is not all-knowing, he is not omnipotent, or he is not loving and caring. Now, don't leave that dislike. I'm not advocating for or against the existence of God. You could just say that godhood is a concept that transcends mere human logic and rationality, and we're too stupid to get it. My favorite paradox shows how flawed human psychology can actually be. Let's begin with the story of this little imp in an indestructible bottle. Whoever possesses this bottle can get any wish of any kind granted to them. But if at the moment of their death they still own the bottle, their soul will forever rot in hell. The only way to get rid of the bottle is to sell it for less than what you paid for it. If you try to get rid of it by just throwing it away or selling it for more than what you paid for it, it will magically spawn back into your possession. They say that the bottle was first sold by the devil himself, and that throughout history it ended up in the hands of Julius Caesar, Alexander the Great, and Napoleon. But now, because of its constant depreciation, its owner is selling it for just $15. If you think about it, you could buy it for $15, then make yourself infinitely rich and powerful and happy and successful, and then sell it for just $14. Now, in the story, the characters buy it and make themselves rich and happy and successful, and then sell it on to someone else, until at the end of the story, there's someone who gets stuck with the bottle because they buy it for 1 cent, and that's the lowest possible price you could buy it for. They can't sell it anymore. Loser. But here's the paradox. In a perfectly rational world, no one would ever buy this bottle, no matter the price. Let's start from the bottom. No one would buy it for 1 cent because they'd know they couldn't sell it to anyone, as 1 cent is the lowest possible price. But by that logic, no one would buy it for 2 cents because they'd know that no one would buy it for 1. But by that logic, no one would buy it for 3 because they'd know they couldn't sell it for 2 or 1, and so on and so forth up to infinity. No matter the price, no one would buy it because they know they could not sell it. Real life is obviously not like this. You and I both would probably get on all fours and start barking to get something like that. And it's because of the greater fool theory. It's a concept in economics that tells us that sometimes people make money by buying something that's already overpriced and then selling it to someone else for even more than what they paid for it. In the imp story, it's actually kind of the other way around, but the reasoning still applies. Why do people do that though? Well, it seems to be bound to a concept known as herd mentality. To make it simple, people can be drawn to buy things whose price they see increasing, even if they know that the real value of the thing is much lower, or in some cases even zero. For example, Bitcoin, you know. Look at this picture. Could you tell me which ones of the lines on the right side is closest to the line on the left side? Most of you will likely say C, and if you didn't, I think you are clinically blind. In 1961, psychologist Solomon Asch performed this exact experiment. He took random people and put them one by one into a group with 7 other people. He then asked everyone to answer questions of this kind multiple times in an out loud manner. The other 7 people in the room though were all paid actors, and they were explicitly instructed to say the wrong answer. They were always called before the actual subject of the experiment. it turns out that after hearing the obviously wrong answer from every other person in the room, a lot of people caved in and just conformed to the majority and gave the wrong answer, even if they knew it was the wrong answer. 75% of people answered wrong at least one time because of this very reason. And to make sure that it was not because the questions might have been too difficult to answer, they tested this exact same thing by asking people individually without external influence, and 99% of people never made a single mistake. Conforming to overall trends and choices of people around us is also known as the bandwagon effect, from the phrase jumping on the bandwagon. There seem to be many reasons for this behavior. First, it's efficient. Trusting other people's judgment allows our brain to make decisions quickly without having to allocate precious time and resources to evaluate all of the possible options. The desire for fitting in is also a big one. No one wants to be the odd one out. And finally, when it comes to things like politics, being on the winning side is also a pretty big factor. And this effect is just one of many cognitive biases. Just look at this map. It paints a scary picture because we like to think that we are free in our choices in everyday life. We probably aren't. Thousands of external stimuli drive our actions day after day after day. Back to the dice. The solution is putting 2, 2, 4, 4, 9 and 9 on die A, then put 1, 1, 6, 6, 8, 8 on the faces of die B, and finally put 3, 3, 5, 5, 7, 7 on the faces of die C. I wanted to test this for myself, so I wrote an actual computer program that ran 1 million challenges between each possible pair of dice. And it's true, each of these pairings has a winning rate of 5/9, more than half of the times. Here are some other cool paradoxes. Imagine you have a potato made of 1% solid mass and 99% water. Imagine you left it out until it became 98% water, so a bunch of water evaporated. What I want to know exactly is how much weight do you think the potato has lost? The answer is 50%, because originally 1% solid mass means 1 part out of 100. At the end we have 2% solid mass, 2 out of 100, which is also known as 1/50, which means that we have lost 50 parts of water. Half of the weight. What happens if Pinocchio says, "My nose grows now"? Or listen to this one, which actually has an answer, and if you get it, write it in the comments. Socrates wants to cross a bridge guarded by Plato. Plato tells him, "If your next sentence is true, I will let you pass. Otherwise, I will throw you into the water." Now, since Socrates has daddy issues, he needs to one-up everyone, so he tells Plato, "You are going to throw me into the river." What should Plato do? Subscribe to my channel, please.